здесь появится. Окей.
Мгм.
Meeting enough live on Facebook. Okay. Yep. So I think we're live.
Live, okay.
Okay,
Wonderful.
so hello everybody who's watching.
Yes.
Today, say it again, Anastasia.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah,
Mhm.
we don't know who's watching it live or in recording. Hi, we are excited, me and Anastasia meeting today, and we're excited to share this conversation with you because we felt really passionate about it, and we talk about it all the time. So we thought, why not to share it with more people, and in hopes this will be helpful to someone. We are both, Anastasia and we're both psychotherapists and self-exploration enthusiasts. I would say we're both passionate about being conscious and being aware of what's happening and growing, expanding our consciousness. And I think that's how you and I connected, right? We met at the monastery at actually my baby blessing, Veronika's blessing, who's now middle child. Since then, I had another child, but then she was the baby. Yeah, and we met and connected right away because of similar interests,
Well, I
right?
want to share a little bit about our connection because it has a lot to do with this podcast. Because first we met at the monastery, and that was a random meeting. Someone introduced us, we connected, but we didn't really held connection for maybe close to a year because we lived far away from each other, didn't know each other well. And then I moved closer to you, and we went our first friendship date. I remember I was with no. First one, I was pregnant,
Yes.
and you had your toddler, and all we talked about was our personal journeys and personal growth and healing and consciousness, and that's all we talk about. I was about to give birth. Then I gave birth, and we met again. You had your toddler, I had my baby in a stroller, and that's all we talked about. It was our journeys and our process, and then I think every time, no matter what was going on in our lives, this is something that connected us together. Then I moved. I went for a year. I was in Russia and Thailand for a year. Then I moved to Thailand, and we continued our explorations together. So that we don't see each other physically that often. This is something that really connects us deep. And me and Iryna, we can like not talk for weeks or even like months, and then we have sessions together. Sometimes we do these group sessions, and we're like just really align and connect in our process. So what we wanted to talk about today is, what does it mean to be in a process? What is that like process thing? And what we want to talk about is personal growth journey, because there is so much of it. The industry is big. There's therapy for it, there's coaching, there's retreats. I mean, I don't know, the industry is huge. And one big umbrella for it that we think would be a personal growth journey, and underneath it you can name it in a different ways. You can think of healing, you can think of self-development, you can think of empowerment, right? um, there's a kind of different words that people use to be on this journey. But what we are passionate about is, we notice that uh, that our industry oftentimes focuses on something great, promising great results, uh, promising, being in an empowered state, promising being in a pleasure state, promising, achieving some, again, magical lifestyle or relationship or whatever it is, or inner state. So it's a lot of promises and a lot of focus on results. And what connects me in Iryna, that maybe it's, our Russian or the Russian states, we're a little bit more skeptical in terms of, we really investigate until we reach the truth. And that's what connects us. And so what we named this podcast is, from kind of the pitfalls that we want to highlight in a personal growth journey, and from healing to empowerment into wholeness. And I'll let Iryna to pick up from that. What does that mean, wholeness, and why we use this word versus, why not healing, why not empowerment, and what's the difference with
Yeah.
wholeness?
Yeah, so we both work in the industry. This is our not only our passion, but also like our work, career, purpose, right? So well, that's why it's our work, because it's our passion, right? And we see different things happening, like you said, in the industry. Coaching industry is booming. We're traditionally trained as therapists. Even in therapy, it's happening, even though, there's so we see all this like different approaches. And I think we talked about how for us personally, this particular approach that we're gonna mention, as we see, it became sort of problematic for us. And maybe it's gonna work for someone, but we want to highlight what didn't work for us and what works for us and our clients, right? Because it's our approach as therapists and as well as facilitators. And then we offer it to our clients, and for some it works, for some it doesn't. But for us, I think we agree in this with you, that it just makes sense. It feels like truth. It feels like truth in the body, in our whole system. It's like, yeah, it's like relaxing, settling. And if we're talking about empowerment or even healing, even though that's like a newer addition to this, then it's like there's like some pressure or some, it just doesn't feel like settling and truth and relief.
And so I want to add why it doesn't, because right, like even the word healing, I used to love. I mean, I still kind of like the word healing, but
Yeah.
what it means, when you think of healing, um, you think of there is something wrong. First of all, it's like when you think of healing, you think of fixing in a way, right? Because healing kind of implies fixing, and that's the mindset that many people have. I have, some clients that come to me from already existing kind of healing journeys and trying different approaches, and they quite amazed, with the approach that I do, which is called the voice dialogue method. And because for them it's so different, it's like almost restructuring their way of thinking and seeing, because no one is there is trying to fix anything. What actually I do in my approach, and I know Iryna does it in her own way, is meeting someone fully with all their different selves. And what I want to add to that, just a little bit of background why we think that it is the way it is, and why there's a tendency to fix something, right? Why there's a tendency to get rid of something, like, fix bad relationship, get rid of, negative emotions, whatever it is. Iryna, you can add to it. But the reason is because just a little bit of the history and mental health history also, because I think coaching is more like an emerging, right, industry from the mental health. I don't know exactly, but it seems like it. But mental health industry, it's all based on the medical system, meaning that, what is the medical system? If, those of you who in the US and in many more countries, it's a reductionist approach. You come in and you say, my leg is hurting, okay, let's fix the problem, right? And it's normal for the medical system overall, and it works, most of the time, probably not all the time. And same thing with the psychotherapy and with the mental health. It's the same way, there's a diagnostic, right? There's something wrong. Even those people who kind of step away from diagnosing, right, like with the mental health and just trying to be more holistic, there is still this attitude that something needs to be changed, something needs to be healed. And that's why people come to therapy most of the time. Something is not working well, I need to change it, I need to fix it. So it seems normal, right? Because that's how we function. I came to this industry just like that. I also, was on a path of fixing and changing myself until, I would say, just a couple of years ago, like really settling in my own process and understand. And in that process, the healing happens when this chase for the healing stops. So I
Yeah.
can continue. I'll let
Yeah, so along those lines, like you said, it's very normal for us to start there. Like we all have suffering, right? We all have pain, and we experience it in different ways as humans. And so when we feel it, it's instinctual. We want to run away from pain towards pleasure. And so we experience pain, and we're like, oh, take it away. Like I want to take it away. So clients use words like, I want to overcome my depression. I want to finally clear my anxiety, even in this like spiritual circles, right? Or like energy healing, it's like clearing I want to clear this energy, in which it's like I want
Manifest
to
or
get rid of it.
manifest something great. Yeah.
Yeah, let me get rid of it. Let me like this depression that I feel, I don't like this, please take it away. I want to be happy, fulfilled, and always smiling, right? So this is kind of like the society in some way makes us think that that's okay, that's desired, and that's even possible, like this image of this like happy, fulfilled person that's always, in a good mood or something. And people think,
Reminded me, this reminded me of the show that you recommended me once. Remember, it was the show about this couple who were coaching people into finding the love of their life, and they were promising to them that they're gonna
yes,
find
that's
the
a
love of
twin
their life.
flame. Yeah, twin
Yeah,
flame. Yeah, I think the idea of twin flame is that you're gonna finally meet that love who's gonna give you that, security, and all your relationship problems are gonna go away, or they're gonna be irrelevant, because there it is. There's gonna be this security, and forever and ever and ever. And people want that. They want something solid, stable, like somebody give them the answer. And so, and that's okay that people kind of start there. I think we all started there. I started there with my own, depression. And, I quickly realized that this is like a depressed part of me, and I see it, in people, that it's a part of me or state, or there's something in me that needs healing, and that needs healing. But I mean, like, not fixing, not changing her, just seeing her and accepting her, and actually not trying. So healing, like not trying to change her. So that's where my holistic view, and you can tell me if you agree with this, because maybe we have some differences, but my holistic view is where I say we expand into that, all parts of us, all selves, all parts of us, all states feel welcome and accepted, no matter how they feel, how painful they feel, how shadowy they feel, how unacceptable to other parts, whatever. It doesn't matter. We expand to include all of that. So it's inclusion and acceptance. Those are like
yeah, yeah. I
qualities.
like the word. I like the word reclaiming. It's almost like reclaiming
Reclaiming.
ourselves. And we should talk about what that means, because some people might not know what does that mean, reclaiming ourselves, right? And
Yeah.
what's the use of reclaiming your anger, or what's the use in, well, that might be people starting to understand what's the use of that, but what's the use in reclaiming your, the one that's depressed, or what's underneath it, or what can be missing out on when we just focus on one thing, right? I don't want to have this, I want to have that. And what can be missing out on, because what does it mean to be whole, right?
Right. And or you mentioned a little bit about, healing side of it, which means is like, oh, I don't like this, heal this depressed part so she no longer depressed, which is kind of like trying to change her, which is, not what I'm doing in my approach. And also there's this word of empowerment, which is really popular in some circles, and it's kind of like um thinking that there's some kind of power to be discovered within me, and once I have that and discover that, I'm always going to be this powerful, confident person.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and I'm like, is that even possible? Is it true that that's possible, that you can only be in this one good state,
state,
sort of?
one
Yeah,
state of being.
yeah,
Yeah,
one
that's where
state of being.
support comes in. Yeah,
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 and we live in a dual world, so there's always duality, meaning that there's always one side of things and there's always other side of things. Like there's always the scale.
yeah,
And so, like, why is it that we want only this side of scale, all the good things, only joy, happiness, only. What about the whole other side, the yin and yang? Why will we only work focusing on this white circle, right? Like
Yeah,
I want this.
and it's very interesting because many of us, I think, like the concept of yin yang because it's beautiful and creative and artistic, you know, in many ways and ancient. But when it comes to actual work, right, like looking at ourselves, that's what I mean by work. It's
Mhm.
looking at both sides, and we are beings, right? That's a bit more, you know, like consciousness talk that take on different state of being, right? Different the state of being that we take on, right? For example, what would be an example to show people kind of that duality, that one, like you were talking about empowerment, right?
Mhm.
All right, so if, you know, someone comes in and actually, you know, had clients before, like, I want to be in this like a sexy goddess energy, right? And because I believe if I'm in that, my relationship is going to improve and I'm going to have a great love life and, you know, and so on, and it's just going to be feeling good about myself, right? And it's fun. I actually, you know, with the method I practice, and I think Iryna too, I can directly connect you to that energy.
Oh, it's
No
available. Yeah, it's available.
no problem. It's available actually like this. It's no problem. But the problem is so much more to you, right? And you simply cannot cut off parts of yourself, just like a surgeon cuts off, you know, some, I don't know, organs or when if you cannot. It's just impossible because nothing goes away anywhere, you know, in the
Mhm.
consciousness process. So if you are that, you know, become the full goddess self that, you know, feels very empowered about herself, you always gonna have some, you know, it's first of all, it's a high standard to have. There's always going to be vulnerability on the other side of yourself that says, I don't want that. You know, I
Yeah.
just want to crawl into bed and rest and not being seen and not being pretty and just be okay the way I am, you know. And there's always going to be something else. And if you're going to neglect that vulnerability, you will know. It's your own honesty with yourself, because a person cannot deceive themselves. At the end of the day, you will feel the conflict, you will feel the tension. Something inside will tell you, like, if you're gonna push away that depressed self, that one that wants to grow up away, she's just gonna be reminded about it every day. You cannot
Hmm.
ignore something, and actually
Yeah.
turning towards that other possibility of life can open other gifts, right? What can it be? If you turn towards the one who wants to crawl, and, you know, and not be have this high expectations of be this, for example, goddess self. And the reason I'm using this term because it's so popular, right? And many people, especially women, you know,
Yeah.
want something they think they don't
Right.
have. And 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 you know, by reconnecting to the other kind of more, you know, that vulnerability, you give you a chance. It's gonna, it also like will communicate to you the needs that you have. The need might be, I, you know, what could be the need? This is the one who actually feels more connected to oneself, right? Because she's more sensitive and vulnerable. This might be
Mhm.
the one who just has a different language, a different scene of the world. Because you might think of, you know, sometimes women want to be in a certain way because they think it's going to bring them love in a relationship, but has nothing to do with connection, by the way.
Yeah.
You know, if you, the
Right.
goddess, you know, she doesn't give a shit about, you know, a
Well,
man. She gives about shit to, you know, be herself. I'm just, it's an
right.
example. But the connection is going to be somewhere else. And this person might think, but why am I still missing connection? And so that's the interplay. There's so many parts of us that all of them have equal importance, because all of them are already existing ways of being that have been there before each one of us was born. They're archetypes. They have been there forever.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a good point about you know, something new's gonna let you know. So because the truth is, and I've done it for many years, the truth is you can suppress, and we do suppress those parts. I mean, that's just the process that's happening. And for me, for example, I suppressed like my depression for a long time, and I avoided it, and I masked it with drinking and so on. And so, but there comes a point where you cannot do it anymore because the energy that's suppressed is so large that it kind of tips over and it takes over the process. And then we have the depression that you can't get out of bed. I had it. I just couldn't get out of bed. Like my will was like boom, 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 you know. So that's the price for suppression. So, and a lot of times people, so I started therapy in that state because I avoided suppressed for as long as I could. I think it's natural. Like no, 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 I'm not looking. Boom, here it is, the crisis, the divorce, where all your defenses are kind of collapses, and you have to deal with it. So that's a lot of times clients come to us in the states at the bottom, right? When they can't no longer suppress. So uh, you bring up a good point that there's a price for that. We can, but there's always going to be a price that we'll have to
Right.
pay for cutting
Mm.
off suppressing parts of ourselves. And just like you said with this goddess thing, yeah, there is a part of us. I think every woman has an access to that part where she's confident. She's like, look at me, I'm the goddess, and you serve me. And it's great. It's a great experience. I think every woman should, why not? Of course, like we want
Yeah.
that. It feels great. And like you said, if that's only us, then we're not giving. It's kind of like it's about me. It's like this power self, really. But what about maybe the woman in us who wants to give sometimes and serve? I mean, maybe, it's like
So
maybe that's the balance. So like you said, maybe in that part there's not going to be this loving connection and real intimacy. Like I don't experience for myself, I can say I don't experience the intimacy that I love and want in that part. That's not where it comes from. And
me
so
neither.
you only have that. That's a limitation. That's a limitation what you can experience in relationship. And it's unfortunate because, it's only a part of the whole cake, right? Like a little sliver.
Yeah, I want to share a little bit, as you said, about your depression and suppressing it. For me, I never felt I was suppressing it. I was really like searching and digging into it and wanted to meet it. But
Mm.
the fact that what I realized not that long ago, and I have been on this uh, self-development, personal growth journey for, I don't know how long, maybe 20 years consciously, and before that. And but only recently I real I was kind of chasing my own tail that uh, I can see it, I can meet these parts of me that depressed, but there is still that feeling that I want to change it. I don't want it's still there, although I know it, although I know everything about it, but there is a still it's coming from this place. I want to change it, like show it to me. Let me do a breath work to get out, to clear you out. Let me
Mhm.
have a cathartic expression to get rid of you. Like it's still there's this underlying intention, and that's all only comes with a kind of self-check, honesty with oneself. And I was chasing my own tail for a while, for a number of years with that, and just like can't quite. And finally, something started to relax, uh, and just that intention to I need to change or I need to fix started to relax. And naturally, in that, this meeting starts to happen naturally because when this part comes in, I can be with her more naturally. I can see her through, and I'm actually available there. I'm talking about more like a trauma in me and emotional trauma in me. I'm actually able to be with it more than I ever could have without
Mhm.
trying to change my own experience and see her for what it is, but also not being in it, right? I'm able to be with it. So that requires some awareness, open awareness, right? And gentle awareness. And I think, we didn't talk about what is the process for us. What does it mean to be in a process? Because that's kind of, connected to it. What is a process, being in a process versus I have a time frame to get these results. And
Yeah.
what is a process for what? Because if you are a business coach, right, or someone who, needs to get someone a job or who needs to help someone achieve certain results, or I don't know, create a website, whatever it is, some kind of tasks. Yeah, focus on goals and results. Of course, everyone needs that, just to focus on that. If you have a particular task to achieve or particular thing to do, but what does it mean to be in the process when it comes to our kind of um, personal growth and healing? And
Mhm. Well, I think you mentioned it when you were just describing your own process with coming from this place of needing to change. And I think also it's can be very subtle, like you said, because a lot of people know, right? They learn, they can know that the right thing is not trying to change it because it's mindfulness and blah, blah, blah. It's quite popular concept. So they know it's right, and they say that they are doing this, and inside they're not doing this because it's a not what you do, it's how you do it. It's the energy. And what you described is exactly the process. It's being with it, looking with it, with no expectations, meeting it, being it, and looking at it and exploring, and without expectations. No, as soon as you're trying to get results, you're not in the process. This is the paradox, right? And yet you do get results.
You do get results. That's the paradox. Yeah.
That's the paradox. But as soon as you anywhere you're attaching the result, or you wanting a result, that's a part of the process.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just want to add to it that I think, you know, the key thing that what you describe requires for being in a process is, you know, if someone like a client comes to you or you yourself, right, I think it's curiosity is huge one.
Yes.
Being curious, because being curious is like even when connect to the energy of curiosity. Well, how the fuck do I get curious about my depression when I suffer in it so much? I know it's too, right? What is curiosity? And openness, also openness to an experience, openness of meeting yourself, because there are so many parts of each one of us that are not going to show themselves, and that's where the key kind of answers are, and require really they want to trust, you know, that someone is there to truly meet them, not push them away, meet them. And they need to trust you, whatever person is doing this work, that you actually there to be curious and open to meet these parts, and not you know, trying to, okay, here you are, that's who I need to, you know, get rid of or stop. So it requires, you know, some kind of gentleness and openness and curiosity. And what does it take to shift that mindset in a way to that versus you know, fixing something? And maybe the good question for that would be, who is the one that wants to fix? Who is the one who wants to fix something? Who thinks that you're not good enough, or something wrong with you, your life, or whatsoever? If something is missing, or you having a depression, so who is the one? What is the part of you that wants to fix? Maybe that would be the first question to ask, to kind of bring awareness into that, in order to relax a little bit and shift the attention into the one who is curious and wants to get to know yourself fully, meet yourself with love. Because to me, that's love, when you're meeting yourself fully.
Yeah.
And in love, there's a healing
Yeah.
happens.
Even love is seeing, is healing, just witnessing, and
Yeah.
it's a state of with no judgment, right? So you in a state of openness, curiosity. There's no bad or wrong. You don't have any agenda.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
openness you
You
describe.
just use the Greek words, non-judgment. So that's a key. If you know that you judge yourself or judge a part of yourself, you know you're in a self. And what does it mean to be
Yeah.
in a self? That comes from a voice dialogue method. You're in a self, meaning that you're in some part of you, and you're not in this kind of awareness, open space where you actually able to, you know, or can meet, you know, different part of your own experience. But when there is a judgment towards yourself, you know you're in a self, and you know you're in a place that's always going to be judging the opposite. As Iryna said before, that our world is duality, meaning that if we have one state of being, there is just as opposite state of being available somewhere there in the subconscious.
And they're equally important. They're equally valuable. That's the thing where we always value one over the other. But in this approach, they're equally valuable, right?
They're equally valuable. Yeah. And that's where the wholeness comes in, right? Where we call this podcast, you know, live, the, you know, from healing to wholeness. Because to get curious about something that you don't know of yet, right? Wow. You know, how interesting it is to be curious about something new that you don't know of yet. And you know, my one of my teachers, Jamie, she's a voice dialogue teacher for me, and Iryna knows her, and she has this great book that she wrote, and there's an exercise in the book that she starts with. It's called uh, like people who bug you or something like this. And so the exercise is great. Actually, you can reach out if anyone is interested, and I can direct you to her book. But the exercise is great because it makes you write down the qualities and people who bug you, who annoy you. But then gradually it asks you, like, how do you think these people think of this quality in themselves? Because if you say, oh, this woman is selfish, you know, she's just so self-centered, I bet this woman doesn't sit there and think, I'm so selfish and self-centered. She might think, I'm, you know, forward thinking, I know how to take care of my needs, right? But so by connecting to the source of the energy of something that annoys you, most of the people discover that actually this is something that they're missing in their life to get what they want, you know? So
Yeah,
it's not about
exactly. And
they
that,
to connect
yeah,
themselves.
connecting to the cells. Yeah, and you were talking, and I was what came to me, I was reminded of how, you know, in some of those sessions we, you know, voice dialogue sessions that we did together, I reclaimed some pretty like intense energies. I remember this part of me, this like killer energy, you know, and I was like, oh my God, I'm a nice person. I'm so kind, right? And here it is, this part of me that came to me in my dream, and she was so aggressive, and like, and it was hard. You know, this work is not easy. Like there's so much forbidden, you know, societal norms and layers of, you know, difficulty working with this. And but and you know, with the facilitation, I was able to, with the facilitator, when they hold non-judgment for this part, we kind of like, I remember just breathing, because okay, finally a part of me is accepted and seen, and I can start doing the same, because this facilitator is modeling me this
Yeah.
acceptance. And it's like this,
Something you
oh,
cannot hold within yourself yet. Yeah.
something I cannot hold in myself. I just too much, you know, and just her witnessing and welcoming. I remember like it was such a huge relief, and I started to accept this part
Yeah.
of me. And of course, I'm not running around killing people, you know, with this part, but I can use this energy to, like you said, to achieve my goals. So another fear we have is like, oh my God, if I reclaim this part and this part is so horrible, am I gonna be like that? And it's
Yeah.
no, you're not. It's actually, you're gonna, there are less chance that you're gonna be like that, because it's conscious. What's unconscious controls you. So the more you reclaim the what we call shadow, but even that is a little bit judgy, but what you call, you know, this other side parts of you, the less chance you actually have to act them out unconsciously. So
Yeah, and especially when we talk about things like anger, right, aggression, and so on, that's a huge one because it's scary to connect, to kind of work with your own anger, right, with your own frustration, especially as a
even it wasn't even anger, it was like it was aggression to the
kid.
point of like ability to kill someone. So that's such
Yeah,
a, ooh, yeah.
yeah, that session I remember, but for people, I think, especially for women and
Yeah, for
some men
couple.
too, like
Yeah.
it's a difficult one. But at the same time, when you do that, what happens, what exactly you said, I remember, just want to add to this, that I had a wonderful client who kind of wrote to me after a few sessions. She said, Anastasia, she just expressed it so perfectly. She said, Anastasia, I feel 10 kilos lighter after each session. And it was very funny because it's very much voice dialogue related, because when you come out, from the self that you identify with, like, I'm this way of being and I want these things to happen, right? When you come out of that, you don't even know what's happening at first in the process, but something feels 10 kilos lighter. I know it for myself. I had a session myself as a client last week, with my teacher, and I was able to connect to this part of me that turned out to be an inner patriarch, which was not planned at all. And when I saw it through, I started to laugh, and I felt that 10 kilos lighter. Like, it wasn't 10 kilos, it was 100 kilos lighter. It was just like, I even got dizzy, just kind of seeing through something within myself by just gently like in someone's hands of a facilitator meeting, this, my teacher was able to just create space, meet me fully without any judgment, and then it showed itself for what it was. And I don't need to get rid of it. All I need is to be open and meet, and the whatever shifts, whatever is happening, it happens already not in my control. It happens in some kind of space of awareness that's then whatever, in the hands of God, however you want to call it. It's the consciousness work. It happens by itself.
Yeah. It happens by itself when the conditions are right, and conditions are non-judgment. So when there's a place of love and acceptance and non-judgment, these parts do want to show up, and they want to be seen, they want to be accepted, they want to talk to us. And it only can happen when it's the space is right, because any hints, they're just not gonna trust, which makes sense. If we abandon them, suppress them, said you're bad, go away, then they don't want that. It's going to be harder to show up. But you mentioned also something that you in a session you were able to see through, and before that you couldn't, right? And it happens to me all the time as well, and I'm always fascinated how no matter how much we do this work, there isn't going to be any ideal conscious place where I'm going to see everything right away and always aware. No, I'm always going to be unconscious through those parts, and it's always going to be a process. And I'm sort of surrendered the idea that there is any arrival point where I'm finally healed and whole. This process is the process.
Yeah. And moreover, the funny thing in that particular session for myself was talking about the self that I was talking with, the facilitator. It was someone who said, I need to be this way. I actually need to be softer as a mother. I need to meditate more often. I need to be softer as a wife. I need to be this. I need to be that. That's where it started. And it sounded very positive. Why not? If I'm this way, maybe some of my problems, I don't know, I don't have like much, but some of my problems will start to solve, right? Like it will be like even more, like more peace, more this in my family or so on. So it was coming from a very positive place. It might sound like it, right? So I went on how much I need to be a certain way. And then what changed that? And so my, facilitator was kind of inquiries, asking if someone doesn't know, asking questions, just without judgment, just getting curious, asking questions. So the facilitator inquires, just to open up more. And I go on, and then my facilitator, Jamie, she says, I wanted to ask you, are you male or female? And I sounded at first like a very female energy, right? Because I need to be softer as a woman. I need to be this. And I look at her and I say, I'm a male and I'm a patriarch. It was very funny. It was hilarious because in that process, I realized that the self that was kind of like I had, this part of me that was telling me how I need to be was very kind of an energy of the patriarchal energy that sees women as being one way, not allowed to have emotions, not allowed to have frustration, not allowed to have this. Those are the things that the self wanted me to get rid of, when I get frustrated, right, at my son, or when I get frustrated at my husband. I mean, that's part of life. That's part of the human experience, all these things. And it just wanted me to get rid of it because it wanted me to be a certain way and one way. And simply when I saw through it, it was just,
it's a relief for sure.
That relax, and the tension, the inner state changed. My inner state changed, and because my inner state changed, I was more present, softer, available, right? But I'm not attached to being softer and available. That's the difference.
That's the paradox. Yeah. And you reminded me of what we talked about asking this question: who wants you to be softer, right? Like, or for clients, if I want to be a certain way, I want to resolve this, or when I get rid of this certain, who wants to do that for you, right? Who wants
let me talk to you. Let me talk to the one who has all these rules about you and how you should be. By the way, in voice dialogue, this self was a rule maker, and each one of us has a rule maker that says has a list of rules how you should be. By the way,
yeah. So how do people, say, listening to this can recognize that they're in self? Because yeah, to be honest, it's pretty common, right? People come and they have a request for inner work and they desire certain thing, like they come for this, right? And then we start untangling this, right? So maybe if they're listening to this and they have this, how can they recognize they are in the self? What do you think would be helpful?
Well, I think we kind of talked about early when you mentioned judgment and non-judgment. I think one of it, if you feel that, kind of energy, well, some of us more sensitive to the body, some not. For those
Mhm.
who's sensitive to the body, if you feel tension, right, judgment can come up in the body's tightness, tension. I'm very sensitive in the body energetically. When I'm in some kind of self that has some kind of agenda, I feel it in the body. It's like some sort of tension in my chest or solar plexus, something like I could feel this, like contraction in my body.
Mhm.
For those who are less sensitive to the body, right, it's in the mind, in the thinking, probably. So it's judgment, like if you sense that you're coming with an intention, there's something uh there's something wrong with me, there's there's some kind of judgment going on. It's coming from some kind of self, and it's all right, there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
But it's an opportunity to notice and take it as an opening to explore, right? There's nothing wrong with it. It happens with everyone. It's like all the time, there is something inside will tell you there's something wrong with you, but that becomes a space for opening and noticing versus like, let me fix what's wrong. That's what it is. It's not about not having the mindset there is something wrong with me. I think it's just natural. It is a self that points out like, this needs to be paid attention to it, and it does need to be paid attention
Yeah,
to it, just
exactly.
not, yeah, just from a different place.
Yeah, I think when I mean, both of us, we've done a lot of work with inner critic, and I work a lot, quite a bit of with it with clients. Basically, a lot of my clients come to me with the strong inner critic that's telling them, what's wrong and how to fix it. And when we do some work with it, it's not like this part of it goes away. We need this. It has a function in the psyche, right? But it's more like
Very,
into discernment or telling us that some things are working and we can look at it, but we don't have, but usually they come in a bind with vulnerability, and the critic is kind
yeah.
of sometimes mean and vulnerability gets hurt, and then we are in pain, and we actually cannot change anything about it because we feel shame, and shame kind of locks us. We just can't. But when it's clear and the critic can still tell us things, like, what is this, and it's more becomes like a voice of discernment, and we can look at it and validate and think of reflect, and then yeah, okay, you're right, like, yeah, why not, like, if it's something to be, so this is not about not to be improved, right? We're not talking about just accept and don't do anything and be, it's not, we're not saying that, even though people who hear word acceptance, they think it's approval, and it's not what we're talking about. So I think it's good to separate the two. We still grow and expand and become more conscious and change a lot. I've changed in this work a lot, but it's not coming from a place where I need to change, and you're
Yeah.
the products.
Yeah, having a choice, because when you kind of meet different parts of yourself that first you might think you don't want to, you actually start having a choice. When before things happen unconsciously, you cannot have a choice but being on one side or one way of being in your life, and not see the whole other reality. Like there's no choice there, and choice only comes when you're able to see different ways of being that you are and you can be. And this, type of work of wholeness. I mean, Iryna and I do different work, although we have similar passion. But I, only mostly do voice dialogue work, and Iryna does, you can say, your
Yeah,
elements, your own
I
kind
work
of
with
way.
psychedelics too, but it's it's like more altered states, and
Mhm.
essentially my stance is similar to yours in that I'm not fixing, changing, or cutting off parts of people, I'm only creating space for love and connection and wholeness for all parts of us to be included. So I think in that way, but we use different methods. You only do voice dialogue, so it's a separate process. Yeah, but it's also maybe what came to me is also just mention a place in us that is not a self. So maybe when people listen, they can recognize when they are in self and when they're not, because I see that I see this work as more staying in this place. We call it in different traditions, different spiritualities, different therapists call it different names. It doesn't matter. It matters that what it is, right? This place in us that it has these qualities. And
that can hold
yeah,
that cannot be in a self, and that can hold the different selves at the same time.
yeah,
That's part of the work, after each voice dialogue session, not all the time, but when person is there and ready for it, it's really connecting them to the opposite selves in themselves, and then
mhm,
staying for a while in a state of being that can hold the opposites, that can be the opposites, that you don't have to choose, I have to be this or that, I have to be mother and caretaker, or wild woman, right?
mhm.
You don't have
That's
to
a favorite
choose.
pair of ours.
It's a favorite
Of
ours.
mine.
But
Yeah.
mothers and wild women, right? And so it's, you don't have to choose, and it's a state. Only in that state, right? In that state of openness, open awareness, in voice dialogue it's called an aware ego process.
Yeah.
Only in that state you can hold the tension of the opposites without having to choose, and be it, and shift. It's a shift, a dance. It's a more different way of relating to life versus rigid. I mean, this
Yeah.
way, or this way, or this
Yeah.
way, or cut off this way.
It's
It's a
yeah.
dance.
So
Life
some
is a dance.
ways
Nature
for
is a dance.
yeah. So some ways for people to recognize it, it's when they feel more spacious, when they feel there's choice, there's like gentleness, openness, no.
Doesn't run into action and judgment, right? Because energetically, it's also okay. When you're in the self, it reduces, like it
Mhm,
feels like small. It feels like, can feel like a contraction in the body,
mhm,
or there's a judgment comes, at the same time with that uneasiness, right? You know,
mhm. Judgment
and
of
that's
self or other. Yeah. So self or other.
self. Good noticing of self or other.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Either
because
way.
other people relationship are the greatest gift for the path of self-actualization.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Oh my God. Yeah. Oh my
Great.
God. And yeah, it's interesting that it's a process. That's why I think that's why we have facilitators, right, and do this work, because I always
Mhm.
find myself in the self. It's not, it's noticing and coming back that matters. Um, and just knowing that that's how it works. Because
Yeah.
yeah, it's so easy to be in the self, and then my inner critic comes in and says like, oh, you're unconscious again, right? So there's like this unacceptance, unconscious parts, and then you just accept that, there's a process, but it's
Yeah.
um
Yeah, it made me think, based on what you said, that sometimes, I don't know about you, but when people come in as new clients, it's a common question, how long does it take, how long is it? I think there's so much marketing and promises, take 3 months, and 3 months I'll give you this. By the
yeah,
way, those who don't know still, it's a traditional marketing kind of pain points, right?
yeah,
Something is wrong with you, I'll give you this in this amount of time,
yeah,
and that's red flag. So when it comes to this kind of questions, healing,
yeah,
relationship, mental, any of that. Not talking about achieving like specific life goals. That's not my industry, for example.
yeah,
But what I was gonna say is that it's often the clients come in with this question, and I mean, I always say that I don't know. I really
yeah,
don't know.
yeah,
And if you believe that it needs to be done, that's not for me. That's not to me, because I don't know. It depends on so much. It depends of where you at. What your resources, how much you want to, how much time you want to invest into it. But it's really like you don't know. And that's a difficult part, I think, for us as a therapist, or coaches or facilitators, because kind of industry nowadays falsely promises you things, and I cannot do that. And I actually probably lose many clients for not being able to do that because I simply don't. And that truth, living in truth is more important to me than that. Luckily, I mean, if I would be in a survival, maybe I'll have to change my mind, but I'm not. And
Well,
but
I think there's a way to tell what you do and describe value without promising results. It's like,
without
the little with this little like little print sometimes when you say results may vary, it's like,
Mm,
I don't know, they put it on medications, I think, or something, but you say this is what I often say, like, okay, like we start working together, and what I can, it's not like a promise, right? It's not like guarantee, but what I do in my work, I provide a space of consciousness, acceptance, and love for your parts or selves who need to come out and need healing. And I need healing doesn't mean need change. I might need to change the word, but you know what I mean? That need love. Let's say we need love, seen and witnessing. And that's what we're gonna do. So as a result of this, you're probably gonna feel better. I cannot guarantee you, but usually people do, because once you stop fighting and suppressing your depression and love it, we feel better. It is gonna, it is how it works.
yeah.
So it might not work, but usually that's what happens. So yeah, so I can say that, like, that worked for me. I mean, but do you think that sounds like, I mean, that sounds like truth. Like if you love your parts of you, you feel better. You feel lighter. You feel, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yes, but at the same time, there's an important thing to say. Unfortunately, like voice dialogue method, and that's something I have to come to realization to, and I slowly coming to, because I believe it should be for everyone, right? Because it's like really
Mhm.
encompasses a whole human condition, and it's limitless to its
Yeah.
expression. And but the creator of voice dialogue, Sidra Stone,
Yeah.
she
What did you say?
she said, well, she said that one of her saying is that voice dialogue is not for everyone, and that's an interesting part, because although it should be for everyone, it's not for everyone, and that's something
Did
me
you ask her? Did you ask her?
that have to come to acceptance with. We didn't focus too much on that.
Okay.
Focus other topics, but yeah, I think I did ask. I don't remember her exact words, but that it requires a degree of kind of a person to being able to stay, in awareness, to being aware of themselves, to be curious, to be open. It requires kind of things that what we described, right? Because if it's not there, I mean, she said slowly, you can kind of, slowly start introducing to people to these things, and that degree, that curiosity can start to develop also, right? But you cannot be as a practitioner attached to the results that it is for everyone, and
Yeah.
that's
Well,
something that
method. So is other methods, right? Like not.
there was other methods, yeah, there
Yeah.
are other
Everybody
methods.
finds their match. I think it's
The right match. Because when
yeah.
it is a right match, it's a miracle. And I know that, my clients can speak for it, right? The one that worked with me for a while, like stayed with the process, and like it's a magic when it feels right, when it's the approach for you, if you resonate with the things, for example, that we covered, it can truly, that wholeness, that meeting yourself fully can do a miracle. I've heard from a client that, again, like years of therapy, different healing journeys, and this voice dialogue method like really start to create some serious shifts within the last year. And it's so nice to hear that when it is for you, when there is a good match, it does magic.
It does work. So
And that
I mean, yeah, and the purpose of our conversation today, maybe we can start wrapping up. Feels like we talked a lot about how this works, and so to introduce people, maybe people listen to this and they'll know that something like this is available, and they feel the resonance or don't feel the resonance. And those who feel the resonance, they know it's out there, it's available, you're available, they can reach out to you directly, me directly, and yeah, and explore further. So that's the
yeah
that's the
yeah
offering.
Yeah, but also, you know, if someone is on their kind of personal development growth, they can start notice some of the things for themselves and check in with themselves and see
Exactly.
where they're at, because maybe they kind of burn themselves on something, or feels they're stuck, or feels like, you know, they're chasing their own tail, right? In, you know, on this path, like, you know, you and I were at a certain points of our life, and that could help also to start to reflect and go a little bit deeper and open up to some curiosity, and
Yeah.
can definitely reach out with the questions on, you
Yeah.
know, on Facebook or Messenger or
Yeah.
a
And there's,
website. But I want to add something that because we were talking about, you know, if something that we discover, if, you know, our passion continues and if it's interesting, I just want to bring up, there's a few other topics that we're considering to explore in the future, that also kind of a pitfall of the personal growth journey. Remember, we talk about one of them is a positivity, we call it toxic positivity.
mhm.
Remember?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
another
Yes, me
interesting
too. Mhm.
topic in red flag and pitfall, because on this, you know, kind of people tend to go to this staying positive thinking, love and light constantly, you know,
Yeah.
and just it's also kind of
California, New Age culture.
California New Age culture, yeah. So that's one topic that would be interesting to explore. Another one is spiritual bypassing, because
Yeah.
I think it connects with this. And when a person again tries to reach some kind of state, you know,
Enlightenment.
outside of
Yeah.
self, but missing out their own human condition and you know, traumas of life, traumas of life, and another one, what was it? Boundaries is an interesting one, because
Boundaries is huge one. Yeah. That's a good one.
boundaries, because there's a lot of misunderstanding. I can see it like on, you know, when I used to be on like a
Yeah.
social media, like topical boundaries, people like think, okay, I'm setting up boundary with you because I don't like what you said, or I don't like what you
Stop.
did.
Stop
Stop
doing
it.
this.
I'm
Stop
cutting
doing
you
this.
off from my life, you
Being a
know, that's
boundary.
it.
Yeah.
What else people call it, like now it's a popular topic, not boundaries, but like a cancel culture, right? Cancel culture is kind of a, I think it also connects with it. So that's, you know, another, because what is boundaries and where is it coming from? It's something very different, I have to tell
Yeah.
you. And then
Well, we
another
can,
one,
yeah, another one.
uh
Yeah. Yeah, we can
um,
also invite people to like vote, right? Like if
we
you,
can invite people
you
vote. I'm just bringing kind of summarizing these topics for the
yeah,
future possible exploration. And the other one was the toxic relationship, right? Like, oh, trauma bond. And
trauma
people call
bond.
it
Yeah.
relationship or trauma bond. And when time to leave this relationship, when is an opportunity to actually go together and love each
Yeah.
other.
I,
I'm
I
sure
wanna
I'm
I wanna do one on twin flames is really a trauma bond.
yeah. Yeah, because, you know, I
I don't
mean,
know,
yeah.
I don't know much about twin flames, but what they describe, what I hear, a lot of people confuse the two. I mean, I don't maybe it exists or I don't not an expert, I
There's
don't
a lot
know.
to explore on that, very separate topic. So we can ask them to vote if they're interested in that and have another conversation in the future.
Yeah, so we have a lot, yeah, we do a lot of explorations with you, but I really yeah, this was really good in terms of like opening it up for others to enjoy this because I really enjoy them and I always find that we kind of like bounce off each other, you know, and weave this together. So yeah, there's
Yeah, it's nice
hopefully
to have a
more.
conversation. Yeah, kind of open conversation about
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
And like see you actually. We were talking on the phone, so this was cool. Yeah,
Mhm.
so let's, yeah, are you good with wrapping up? Do you have anything else?
Yes, no,
Yeah.
I'm happy to wrap up. Yeah, it's live on your page, so you just you
I'm the
have to
boss.
post.
Yeah, so no, this was great. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, maybe even like I'll type them out the topics and yeah, I'll be interested to hear the feedback or hear what
On this.
came up
Yeah,
for people. Yeah, any questions you can
yeah.
even write it here, we can answer. Yeah, just have that conversation and for people to let us know what they would like to go deeper in. That'd be cool to end this. But I really enjoyed this. Yeah, it was really, I was here, I was passionate, I was, you know, my energy was flowing. So yeah, really grateful for you doing this with me. This was fun.
Mhm. Okay.
How was it for you?
For me, that was
Yeah.
great. Yeah. I have a connection with you, and I think when we were kind of talking about, do we need to prepare or not, it didn't really work out for us to prepare, and I kind of trusted that we have a natural curiosity and connection with each other, and we have a mutual passion. So just allowing it to unfold into different topics and go deeper, it was great.
Yeah, and I think we have respect. So I respect what you have to say, respect what I have to say. So that also plays into like we sort of feeling that, respect for each other and each
Yeah,
other.
versus like, let me take a space, let me take a space. Yeah, we definitely don't
Exactly.
do that.
Versus like fighting for yeah. No.
But I
No,
like to,
I think
part of it is I like to listen to you.
me too. I actually like what you have to say in the stage.
Okay.
All right, well, we'll wrap up for now, but hopefully we'll do more of this.
Sounds
Thank you
good.
so much. All right. Bye.